Welcome to the County Manager's Report. I'm Lloyd Higuera, and with me is Interim County Manager Larry Werner. And welcome, Larry.
Thank you, Lloyd. Well, thank you, I guess.
Yeah, that's good enough. So this interim county manager thing is kind of different for Douglas County. And I was wondering now, you'll be county manager until a new county manager is hired. And when you go back into retirement, will you be the interim retirement, or will you go back to full retirement? Or what's going to happen here?
That's a really good question, and I got to tell you, it's I like retirement, but this has been very exciting. It's been really fun, and if I had an opportunity to do it someplace else, I probably would. Until such time as really we want to do it. But as long as we can do our family things like travel
Sure.
and those kinds of things, it's kind of fun. But I find it very dynamic and fulfilling is to be able to, if I can actually be of a benefit to the organization, then that's worthwhile. But I like it.
It's kind of like being a circuit judge or something, just going around.
That's true. And actually, they used to have circuit riding county managers. I know up in the Pacific Northwest, there was a lot of really small communities that couldn't afford to have like a city manager, so they would go together and hire a city manager, but it'd be one night in one jurisdiction, another night in another jurisdiction, so they're kind of a circuit riding city manager. So.
That doesn't sound like much fun, actually.
No, I don't know that I would want to do that. Excuse me.
Well, at least, you can roll out of bed here in Douglas County and go into Douglas County. So
that's true.
Yeah,
that's true.
That makes it nice. Well, we're going to take a look at the June 5th meeting of the Douglas County Board of Commissioners. And at that meeting, the commissioners heard a presentation on the work program for Douglas County from Nevada Department of Transportation. And what's in store for Douglas County?
It was really interesting, and there was a lot of material that was presented. But I think without getting into the details on the projects, but there were about 11 identified projects for 2015 that the state has funded. Had about 8 for 2016, 4 for 2017, and then about 20 for the long range, which really takes you through 2024, but they're not necessarily funded. Most of them related to, I think, safety issues, like looking at some bridges, doing some guardrails, doing some different things here and there, but kind of cleaning up the state highways part of the system. And nothing major because of simply the funding isn't there for the highway, for highway funds, so statewide or nationally actually. But I think you'll see a lot of kind of areas that are bottlenecks or problem areas kind of get a little fixed. I didn't bring all the details. I could go into them, but they're even things like fixing the boat landing at Cave Rock. They're going to do a little work there. So there's kind of a myriad of areas, but
sure. Yeah. Also, commissioners decided to reschedule a discussion on entering into conversations with NDOT on road relinquishment and road transfers. And why did commissioners decide to put this conversation off?
I think the concern was that to have the conversation at the commissioners level at this stage is premature, that we really need to sit down maybe from a staff level, working with NDOT staff to understand what roadways NDOT might be interested in and kind of evaluate whether or not there's the interest there, the cost, before we get into any kind of a meaningful discussion with the county commissioners. I could take it either way, that either way, that if they'd asked us to begin negotiations, we probably would be at the same spot we are today, but it just seemed to be premature to have this kind of a conversation in front of the board. But we will have to have it ultimately.
So rather than just kind of plunging in, you want to have your ducks in a row before you start the conversation.
Absolutely. There's some statutory requirements where NDOT can approach counties on looking at either actual relinquishments, trades, those kinds of things. There may be some county roads that are getting to the level that they ought to be state roads. I'm not sure we have any of those. But the law allows you to exchange then, I'll give you this road if you give me that road kind of stuff. And and then you have to look at the condition of the roadways, whether or not they're at a level that they can be transferred and being, I can't remember the term of art, but it's in good condition. It can't be something that's deteriorating and falling apart. either the trading jurisdiction has to fix it or there can be money involved with the exchange. So a lot of details in identifying what might be subject of a conversation, and we just haven't got that far yet.
I know the county would love to give NDOT Waterloo, but they probably wouldn't want it, would they?
Yeah. They have a few like that they'd like to give us too. So that's the concerns.
Yeah, okay. Commissioners also heard a presentation from Peckham and McKinney. That's the executive search firm, and they're, of course, searching for a county manager for Douglas County, and they gave an update on the recruitment. How's that going?
I think it's going very well. Phil made the presentation. I think at the time, he said at the time that they had, I believe, 33 applicants from about 15 different states, and they anticipated that as we get closer to the application closing date, which is June 16th, that you'll see a lot more activity in the 1 or 2 days prior to the closing, and in many cases the quality of applicants kind of becomes a little higher too.
Sure.
So Carson City, for an example, I think they had 79 applicants ultimately that filed. I would suspect that Douglas County would see at least that many, if not more. I know from my viewpoint, looking at whether you'd want to be in Douglas County or Carson City, I'm kind of favorable to Douglas County. So that's interesting, and then it'll be a process to go through. A lot of that will depend on how long it takes to weed through the list of applicants. With the targeting of still coming back to the Board of County Commissioners, I believe in August. I wish I had that date in front of me. I should have brought that. With a recommended cast of final candidates, in which case then those candidates would then sign a release allowing their information to go public. Oh, I do have the information. Allow the information to go public, in which case then the community starts getting involved in the process. Let's see.
Why don't you review that for us,
Yes.
the timeline? That'd be interesting.
Like I said, the closing deadline is June 16th, and then the screening and preliminary interviews, which is handled by Peckham and McKinley, is June 17th through June 30th. Or quicker than I thought, and then a presentation of the recommended candidates to the board on July 17th, so I was off about a month. And then at that point, they're looking at a stakeholder panel process, community tour, a social reception somewhere August 4th and August 5th in that neighborhood, with the Board of County Commissioner interview process targeted for August 18th, and then a start date of the new county manager, either September, October, depending on their circumstances and how they can extract themselves from whatever job they're in. So.
And that seemed to me like a pretty ambitious timeline when I first saw it, but it seems like they're sticking to it.
I think they are. I think it's very well organized. I'm really impressed with the way that the coordination between the HR department, Norma's office, and Phil with the company are working together to get this done. So.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, so we'll look forward to another update on that. Also at that June 5th meeting, commissioners authorized entering into an installment purchase agreement in the amount of $320,000. That's for the purpose of financing a combination sewer and storm drain cleaner truck.
Yes, and that's interesting, yeah. 'Cause right now the county has been contracting with a private consultant, or private contractor to do the types of jobs that this truck would accomplish. And it's things like culvert cleaning, storm drain basin cleaning. You actually can use it for repairs, for example, of line repairs. If you have a leaking line, you can actually use the truck to extract the dirt as opposed to getting there with a backhoe and stuff, and it works very efficiently for exposing pipe to get it fixed and that sort of thing, so it has an overall benefit. And the method of financing is one that actually we were able to piggyback on with another jurisdiction, and then using the purchase price allows us to spread that cost over a longer period of time, so it's not quite the hit to the budget. So.
Sure. So the county doesn't actually have a cleaner truck like this right now. They've been depending on outside services.
Correct. Yes. Right. The county does not own one of these right now. And I think from my experience in previous other jurisdictions that once they get one of these, they'll realize how efficient these are and how quickly you can begin to do repairs and things. And I suspect this won't be the only purchase of one of these trucks, that you'll probably see this again in the future, because they really do reduce the amount of manpower needed to do a lot of this work that gets done.
Very good. Also, commissioners introduced an ordinance amending Douglas County Code. This was to extend the date by which the perimeter landscape improvements for Montera subdivision must be installed and inspected by Douglas County.
Right, and this one, it's a little more complex. It's one of the area, let me back up. The state of Nevada provided by law that you could create a landscape maintenance district with the approval of a subdivision, provided that the subdivider agreed to that too. So in this case, the Montera perimeter landscaping was identified as being an area that would be subject to one of these maintenance improvement districts, whereby the homeowners within the subdivision pay an assessment, and that assessment then goes to the county. The county then does all the maintenance of that landscaping. And I think the initial proposal, the rate being proposed by the developer that would have to be charged to the owners was fairly high, and there seemed to be some concern about whether it was maybe a little over aggressive. And I think what I saw coming in this last meeting in which they had the first reading of the ordinance is that it had significantly reduced, kind of sharpened their pencils about what really needed to be done, and then worked with county staff to get it down to a more reasonable rate. So I see that, no reason that shouldn't go forward. And at that point then, the homeowners would be paying a little bit more on a monthly basis, and then the county would then take over the maintenance of these landscape areas. So
I see. And of course, right now, Montera is not built out, so there isn't the amount of people probably. The rates might be a little higher now, but lower later.
Yeah, well, I think the underlying, let me back up. The subdivider who owns the underlying property would have to pay that assessment even on the vacant lots. So
I see.
So yeah, 100% of the lots would pay, but it depends on whether it's an individual owner or the developer owner.
But somehow that payment must trickle back to the owner of the property, right? I mean, some of the responsibility for that.
Yeah, ultimately, I think you would see that catch up with them in the price of the lot from the developer. So, yeah.
Also, commissioners approved a 24-month review of 4 development agreements as required by state law. And which agreements were reviewed there?
Yes, the 4 agreements that were reviewed were the Carson Valley Business Park, the Drayton Trust, which is Pleasant View, Job's Peak Ranch, and Valley Vista Estates. And these essentially are agreements whereby the developer agrees to perform certain things on a time frame that's been approved by the county through the subdivision and plan unit development approval process, and it allows for kind of a phased development of subdivisions so that you don't have a lot of developed infrastructure that's not being used. Essentially what it boils down to. And the law requires that those agreements are reviewed every 2 years just to make sure that all the conditions are being complied with, everything's still the way it's supposed to be. If we need to do some fine tuning, it's an opportunity to take a look at it. So in this case, I believe they all were looked at and they all were determined to be in compliance with agreements, and the county had no issues with them. So.
And some of these development agreements are a little bit older too, aren't they?
Yes.
The economic downturn kind of slowed things down and all that.
And that can happen. And in a lot of cases, that happened during this time frame is that if the development agreements, if the folks, the developers, were seeing huge issues with their development agreement, it also would be an opportunity to come back in and modify it to extend the times out. I don't believe that happened. I think these are still under the original agreements and have been, well, actually, no, there was an amendment in 1998 in one of these I see. So there has been some fine tuning as it goes along, but under the current agreements that are in place with their amendments, they're in compliance.
Okay. Also, commissioners gave their final approval to an ordinance to allow cottage food operations as part of a home-based business operation.
Right, and that again was a change in the state law that kind of relaxed the onerous requirements of being a food producer under the state health codes, and allowed for cottage industries to develop specific elements of where you could grow your own and sell your own kind of stuff. And county law was being modified to be consistent with state law in these cases. So.
Okay. And that was a second reading, so that's now on the books.
That is correct.
Okay. That pretty much covers the meeting of June 5th, all the items there. One thing that did happen last evening was a workshop on water and sewer rate increases on county-owned water and sewer systems, and that was held last evening at Johnson Lane at the fire station there. You were there last night.
That's correct.
Could you kind of give us an overview of what went on?
Yes, the meeting was, trying to figure out the best way to phrase this. We had intended to be able to present the facts of how we, the county, developed the rates, what goes into that process. The problem I think that we had that created a little bit of an issue that I'm hearing from this morning was the logistics of the location and the sound. People couldn't hear, couldn't see, they were frustrated. There was a lot of interruption with questions, and we didn't monitor the flow as probably we should have, as far as maybe going through the presentation and then having questions. So the folks I heard from this morning, again, were not necessarily frustrated with the information they were getting, it was the meeting process itself. And they just felt that there was a lot of information they could have gathered and at that meeting that they weren't able to because they couldn't hear us and they couldn't see. And so I'm going to try to decide what we do with that, whether or not we restructure and kind of represent the same information but do it in a little more organized fashion in a better environment where we can make sure everybody can hear. Because I think we were trying to address a lot of the misinformation that's out regarding what we're doing with the Valley Water Systems, and there was confusion last night, and we did try to straighten it out, but I'm not sure we were able to get that message to everybody that attended. And I know some of them left in frustration because they couldn't hear and they couldn't participate. So, one hand, not as happy with the meetings as I could have been, but also happy that we had people there and able to try to explain it. But
now, I can see the wisdom in having the meeting at the Johnson Lane Fire Station because it's close to where the people are. But then again, if they can't hear, then what's the point? And maybe it should have been in the commission chambers. And
that's the question. Either I think we need to look at creating some kind of a portable audio system, or we need to hold it where we can provide the proper audio. Again, I guess best intentions, sometimes don't work out. But.
Okay, so I guess we might be hearing more about this one.
There is, in fact, we were presented at the end of the meeting with a proposal from a large group of the homeowners that was given to us verbally, and we're trying to get copies of that now so we can respond to it. But I am thinking that may require an additional community meeting to talk about. I haven't seen it yet, so I can't really answer definitively, but if it raises enough questions that we see that we still have an issue out there, then we may want to talk to the commissioners about holding, again, another meeting to kind of, let's see if we can do a better job of it, and then address this last piece of information we've got. So kind of more to come one way or another on this one.
All right. We do have another meeting of the commission coming up on June 19th. Do we have any preview of this meeting yet?
It's pretty simple. It's a special meeting to adopt the tax rate.
Oh.
So that one will be,
isn't that one? That's one of the special meetings.
I'm sorry, yes. The June 19th one is the regular meeting?
Is a regular meeting up at Lake Tahoe.
I
know it's kind of early.
Yeah, I've not seen the stuff on that yet. I think there's things starting to trickle in, but I've not reviewed what's on there yet. So
okay.
But I know there is a special meeting that we're holding. Oh boy, I'm terrible about this. But we are holding one on I think it's 4 or 4:30 in the afternoon to basically adopt the tax rate that's been approved through the budget process. That's a very quick.
Right.
I was thinking this was the one we were talking about. Sorry.
Okay. Also, a new issue of News You Can Use has become available to the public. This is always a very informative piece from the county. It's available on the county website at douglascountynv.gov. And what's featured in this issue?
This is a good one because essentially they're talking about the issues we're talking about here today, the water and sewer rates, budget, those kinds of things. So what we've been able to talk here about, you can actually go to the News You Can Use and actually read about some of the issues, and maybe it would help clarify what you might hear today. So yeah, it's kind of reflecting our current topics, so I think it's a good one.
Right. Okay. Excellent. And also, in addition to News You Can Use, you've been out there helping to keep the public informed with this program, and also you're continuing that grand old tradition of the once-a-month interview by local residents on the Record Courier's running commentary. And any interesting questions come up this month?
Yeah, it's kind of fun. It's really interesting because you really are having a dialogue with the community, and as this program does too. The ones are no surprises. They're mostly the same issue about relating to water and sewer rates, budget, concerns about projects. There was some discussion about Vista Grande and when is it going to be completed and opened, and some of those kinds of things. And the way we do that is we kind of have some of the key staff there with me, and as the questions come in, I try to get the information the best I can to understand what's going on there. Then we respond to that with factual information. And but haven't been any real surprises. It's very nice.
I find it interesting too. I read some of the questions, and that the people are really interested in the new stuff that's coming into town, aren't they?
Yes.
They really want to know about what's coming and when it'll be here and all that type of thing, such as the grocery outlet and the Beals department store and all that.
And as we get that, but a lot of it we're not privy to, which is really frustrating. But until a lot of these places have actually signed agreements and done stuff, they won't release the information to us, and so we don't know either. But I try to get with the building department to have them at least give me an update of where we stand with building progress, things that are happening at the lake. There's the Edgewood process properties up there doing their resort, and then there's, I think, the Horizon's doing some things, and so a lot of things are happening. But I've got Dave Lindgren right there, who's the building official, to kind of feed me what's going on. So,
yeah, that probably becomes quite a quite a challenge at times, because you have to be quick on your feet, don't you? I mean, the question's asked, and people are just waiting there for
yes,
the response to come.
It is, and I'm a terrible typer, because I try to do it where I didn't have to type it myself, and that gets complicated too. So I sit at the keyboard and. Yeah, that's not the most efficient way for typing to occur.
This might be a good time too. We have a little extra time here to plug the county's website. As I mentioned, DouglasCountyNV.gov. There is a wealth of information there. If anybody wants to learn just about anything about Douglas County, it's all right there.
Yeah, absolutely. Melissa, our PIO, spends a lot of time making sure that the website is current, that it's relevant. Anything that we're talking about, either this program or through the running commentary or what we're hearing in the office, she'll try to do at least maybe a press release or some kind of a tie into that, or a link to a department that might have information. So, yeah, and essentially anything that we've been talking about here, you probably can find some information about that on the website, or again the news you can use, and it should be current. I mean, we're really trying to keep information current, keep things active. What's happening in the community, calendars. You can go back and you can actually look at upcoming board meeting agenda items. You can review past agendas of what's happened with different meetings. So a lot of information is contained on the website.
Well, like I noticed for the county manager search, the entire brochure is there.
That's correct.
And with that timeline you were referring to too. So,
absolutely.
Yeah, it's all there. So
right.
If you're interested in that topic, it's all there.
Yes.
Very transparent.
Try to be. Really, that's what it's all about. It's really for the people of the community, and we're trying to make the websites and the information we provide to be factual, to be relevant, to be current, trying to do the best.
Okay, so it is a great resource, and would encourage people to use that whenever they have any kind of a question, rather than calling Larry and
I am. I'm happy to talk with these two.
He's busy, but no, you can usually get your question answered right on that website, and it's a nice, easy address, DouglasCountyNV.gov.
Right.
Yeah.
And if there are issues there that should be addressed, we need to hear about that too. And I had one this morning that a person was concerned about not being able to find certain recreation activities on a calendar, and I wasn't sure where to send him, so we're looking in that one so we can. And if it is something we need to correct the links on or make it easier to find stuff, then we need that feedback, because that tells us that maybe we can make some improvements.
Right. Okay. Well, Larry, unless you have anything else to add, anything you'd like to update or anything, we've pretty much done it here.
I think we've covered the ground, Lloyd.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. Appreciate it. Larry Werner, our interim county manager, on the County Manager's Report. I'm Lloyd Higuera, and we'll see you next time on the report.